In dependent origination, death depends on birth, birth depends on becoming, and so on and so forth. So what does ignorance depend on? Ignorance depending on life and death. Life and death depend on ignorance. It's a loop. There's no such thing as the first beginning that ignorance depends on. It's a loop. The effect is like an unending circle. Because of this ignorance, you have these volitional actions, and you have all this karmic and all that, until death. And then death gives rise to another reincarnation, which would breed another kind of ignorance. So that is a loop that's never ending. So you have to go beyond ignorance. Go beyond dependent origination. If you end ignorance, you try to end ignorance to end death. Where does ignorance comes from? If we just cut ignorance and consider ignorance now, where does it come from? Ignorance comes from the mind. Does ignorance just from your fingertips, from your mouth, because your mouth gives it bad speech? Ignorance comes from your hands, because your hand you strike out your fist. Ignorance comes from your knife. Well, I still remember there was a case where on a highway many years ago in a country, that country is slowly getting to develop, and there was a team of about 4 to 5 people who would try to get people driving along the road to stop. And they have a cafeteria, they have coffee and all that. And then somehow they set up a trap. They have a nice lady in there who becomes very courteous, and this driver is a very courteous lady and become interested in the lady. And then finally he got robbed. His car, he robbed his car, and finally he ended up killing. He's already killed a few people. I'm not saying which country, but they're already on a highway. A team of a young lady with 2 men. They plan on, getting all these nice cars from highway by killing the drivers. Drivers who like to mix up with girls, they get into trouble, and then they got killed. And finally, somehow, the detectives got into them, and somehow the man responsible, the person responsible, you know what did he do? He just, stabbed a knife into the guy's heart, and he died. And of course, he's sentenced to life. And before he was executed, he said, "I blame my knife. My knife has done a job that intricate me into doing this." He thought a knife is guilty, not him. He thought the means to be ignorant is the cause of ignorance. It's not the knife, it's not the gun that shoots. It's the man behind the gun who pulled the trigger. Ignorance gets you into trouble, but ignorance itself comes from where? Comes from your mind. If you really have to call it where does ignorance comes from, depends on your mind, because ignorance comes from your mind. And why do you have this kind of consciousness that is polluted? Because you have built up all this karmic energy. The mind induces you to do bad actions, bad speech, and all this create, you sow what you reap, all this create bad karma. You're in a loop. You didn't get out. We call it reincarnation. Reincarnate. The cycle. We call it the cycle of life and death. In the Sanskrit language, we call it samsara. You're in the ocean of samsara. You never get out from it. The Buddha got out from it. And many other Buddhas. There's not just one Buddha, All those who got out from samsara and went into nirvana, they are Buddhas. So Buddha is not just one Buddha. But in the history of mankind, we have one historical Buddha, 2,600 years ago, hoping that unenlightened beings would start to learn to be enlightened and get out from it. It's just like a guy roaming in the forest, extremely dangerous. And now he has got out from that dangerous forest. And then he knew the map to get out. So he drew a map and say, folks, I've already got out, and here's the map. Walk the path, practice. Walk the path and you can walk out from the forest of suffering. But are you willing to walk out? You've been handed the map. You just put the map aside and still look for enjoyment in the forest. And in that forest, a lot of things happen in there. Pleasures, non-pleasures, happiness, unhappiness, suffering, reincarnations. You went through a lot in the forest, but you didn't know about it. You just continue. That forest is like a prison. We have all been so used to the prison that you don't know there's freedom outside. Those little frogs in the well, the only sky they see is that opening on the well. They were in the bottom of a well, all these millions and millions of little frogs and what do you call it? Tadpoles, right? Tadpoles, millions of tadpoles in that little well, and that's the sky. They thought that the sky is round in there. And there was an enlightened individual. He said, "Come out from there. The sky is more than this little circle, that brightness on top of the well. There's a lot more in there." And the frog said, "Can you describe to me what is outside?" It does not matter how he described to you, how the Buddha described to you. He can only say it in words. But how can words describe everything? You think you can use words to describe what is outside the world? Where do you start first? There's the sky is much larger than that little circle. There's flowers everywhere, grass everywhere. It does not matter how you describe it. The tattoo, no, I don't believe you. The tattoos are too busy swimming and eating and in there. They haven't got time to think about how to get out from there. Even if you put a little string in there. Hey, cling onto the string and I can pull you out. You are too busy with your pleasures. And there was a story. I don't know if I can tell the story. There's no time to tell the story. There was a story that one day Buddha Sakyamuni was walking along a lotus pond, a huge big lotus pond, and beautiful lotus flowers with leaves, with crystal clear water. And he was meditating as he was walking. And in his supernatural power, he saw the crystal clear water and the beautiful lotus and all this mud. And right through the mud, he saw millions of miles down in the inferno. Then there was one man struggling with all millions of other men struggling in the inferno. In the sea, it is a sea of suffering. It is a sea of mud and blood and dirt. And they were struggling with all these other people. And Sakyamuni Buddha somehow, with his natural power, saw millions of lives ago, he had particular relationship with this fellow who was a robber in his last life. He had a particular relationship with that fellow. Say, whoever you talk to, whoever you save, or whoever becomes your son, your sisters, they all have particular relationship with you. Otherwise, they cannot be your son or your dad, your mom. They must have some relationship with you, no matter how small, how minute, how little relationship is. But he saw a supernatural power with his natural power and relationship with this particular man. So what he do is he used, the Sakyamuni Buddha used supernatural power. He picked a thread from what do you call it? A lotus have a lotus fruit in it, and when you tear apart the lotus fruit, there's threads. You know what do you call that? 牛絲叫咩啊？Huh? Guilt? A silk, yeah, the silk. There's a lot of silk inside the seeds of a lotus, right? A lot of silk. So with natural power, he just pulled a seed with natural power and lengthened it down to inferno from the pond that was holding the seed down the thread, or go millions of miles down inferno. And this man, the robber down there, was struggling with all the others. He saw the silky thread coming down with light on it, and he saw that silky thread with all his might. He grabbed onto the silky, the thread, the silk, and try to climb up. I want to leave this dirty place. No, I can't. I don't want to suffer anymore. He tried to pull up and pull up and pull up. He was going and going upper and upper and upper and upper. He had about 1/3 of the way, approximately. And then somehow he felt some pressure underneath the thread. There were other people who were also going up there. They were going up there. In other words, he was 1/3, and all these other people was also holding out, trying to struggle and get out from the pond of blood. And then this robber said, I discovered this thread first. Get away from me. Get away. So these people still climb up. Get away. And then he was trying to, kick them and kick them down, because I discovered this first. I am the person who should be using this, not you. Get out, get out. And finally, because of this struggle, bang, the thread broken, and he fell back into the pond again with the mud and blood. And Sakyamuni Buddha was grief-stricken. He said, I tried to save him, but because of his egoistic, selfish behavior, that he only wants himself to be saved, he lost his opportunity. Is this ignorance, right? That's ignorance. So how come I get into that story? Yeah, I'm talking about ignorance, yes. So ignorance depends on what? Ignorance also depends on the consciousness. Do you want to change your consciousness? Then you have to change it. Change your thought. In a North American society, civilization, we used to have positive thinkers. These positive thinkers, they preach what? Whatever the mind can conceive, the mind can do everything. If you train your mind, you can do it. Positive thinking, positive thinking. But positive thinking cannot be let alone. It has to be guided by precepts, morality, samadhi, and vipassana. If you don't know what is right and what is wrong, you have positive thinking, you'll be positively doing the negative thing. So positive thinking must be guided by the right kind of thinking. Not just positive thinking itself. If you're positive thinking about, I would become a billionaire, I think about that every day, you'll be successful. But how do you, in the process, become a billionaire? Be hurting other people, creating a lot of bad karma. You are a scientist. I've always been giving that example. You are an excellent scientist, talented scientist, and you create a hydrogen bomb, and your objective is to occupy another country. You're talented, but you are positively thinking about carrying that laboratories so that you can be successful, but you are hurting other people. You have intelligence, but no wisdom. You see the difference between intelligence and wisdom? You use your intelligence to hurt, to harm. You're creating bad karma. All right? So let's answer the second question. Otherwise, I can't get to it. In the lecture, the 6th consciousness is called mana, and the 7 is called manas, directors or ego as an example. So what is the 8th consciousness? The 8th consciousness is a storage of all. It's a storage of all, and is also the creator of all. And if you really want to call it, quote and unquote, God, feel free to call it a God. But it is not a God. It's you. But that is the whole conglomeration. You individually have that 8 consciousness. I individually have that 8 consciousness. Because of all these 8 consciousnesses of billions and billions of people, the world was created. Not by God, by everybody's consciousness. Let me give you an example. This temple was never built 40 years ago. And there was this one guy who had the consciousness, the objective of building a temple. So he had that objective. The consciousness triggered the building of a temple. And then he tried to get help and all these volunteers, and after 35 years of hard work, the temple got built, got created. Was this temple created by God? No. It was created by the consciousness. That guy had an idea of building a temple. Don't say this temple was built by God. It's by you. By you, by you, by you, by you, by everybody. So the whole world was like that. And more than that, there are something that we cannot see with eyes that are created, and we call it karmic energy. You created all these different karmic energies. I created this different karmic energy, and that brought us to North America, to Canada. They created this karmic energy that brought them to China. They created this karmic energy that brought them to Africa. You created your own little individualistic world. And with all these individuals combined together, we created the whole world. So this world was created by what? The mind. The world was created by the mind, not by God. If you want to call God is mind, mind is God, feel free. You're talking about the same thing. But when people think about a God concept, they always think about a supernatural, a creator, someone that you can blindly believe in and they will save you. If the creator can save, if God can save, he would have saved already. How come there's people suffering? You don't even have to ask. If God is all saving, there wouldn't be anybody suffering, right? Right? You believe in that? I was brought up in a different religion. And the religion always, every morning we have to went to the chapel. And I have to sing all this, every day. And somehow I believe in, am I created by God? If I'm created by God, then how come I'm always behind in my studies? And they're always intelligent, more intelligent than I do. And when I talk to all these different students, and we talk about when we were young, we talk, what do you have for breakfast? Well, they have milk, they have cheese, they have toast, and what did I have? I didn't have that. So how come God created these inequalities, and they have cheese and milk and I don't have? And I started to say, then he must not be fair. So I always argue with my fellow students, and the fellow students said, look, God wants to test you, to see if you're patient, to see if you're good. If they test you and you're good, then you'll be promoted. Like in different classes, you're primary 1, primary 2, primary 3. Well, he wanted to test me. How come he didn't want to test you? How come he didn't put you in a bad situation and test you be higher and higher? So I always have this argument. And so that's the reason why finally I become a monk. I believe in that you created your own world. Don't blame anybody for it. You built your own world. And at the same time, you can improve your own world. It's never late. It's never late to mend. It's always never late. You can always change it. All right, that's the question. Why do you hit the ground with a wooden sword? If I didn't, then you say, why didn't you hit the sword? So if anything I do, why did you hit the ground? When I hit the ground is to alarm you. Hit the ground. When we hit the ground, everybody come to a standstill. Those who are not mindful, those who are not paying attention, they continue walking. That means you're not mindful. And also hitting the ground would mean that there are certain procedures you have to follow. Because we habitually like to be anti-rules. Why do you build up rules that I have to follow? Why do you have this rule and that rule? I can do whatever I want. Why do you set up this rule that I have to stand still? Why and why and why and why? That is to bring you under an atmosphere that we all agree to certain rules and regulations that you have to follow. Why do I have to keep quiet when I'm meditating? I like to lie down. I don't want to cross my legs. There's so many people, if I haven't explained the rules to them, they react in a different way. You know how people meditate? Some people meditate like this. They put their elbows onto the knees and they meditate for half an hour like that. And they think they can do whatever they want. And I have seen one guy, so far only one guy, when he was meditating, you know what he did? He was sleeping like that, in a reclining position, like that. He wanted to be like a Buddha. And he said, I can do the same thing as what a Buddha is doing. So he was lying like that. So we want to have the same kind of disciplines. So that's the reason why we just sought. We also wanted you to be mindful. Because if you're not mindful, you don't know how we hit the ground. You're not mindful. And there was, when I was in a monastery in China, and a very famous monastery, Gaomenji, when I was in Gaomensi, in the hall, they can accommodate 500 people in a huge circular hall. So we'll walk circumambulating. In there, circumambulating is not like us. You know what they do? They run 15 miles an hour. They really have, they really swing their hands and they walk very, very fast. You know why they walk very fast, really fast? Because when you walk fast, you have to pay attention. If you're not paying attention when you walk fast, you will bump into poles. You have to really be mindful when you are walking fast. So everybody is walking fast, and some people walk slower than the other. And there was always this vigilator who carry a plank in their hands, and they also run at the same time with all these other fellows. So you have 400 and 500 people. Ooh, they're running like close to galloping, but running like that, and they don't bump into each other. They just run in a sequence that, although they run all over the place in a circle, they don't bump into each other. But there are some people who walk slowly. Then the one with the wooden plank, there was a nun walking in there, and this guy, this vigilator, put his plank onto her shoulder. Fast, quiet. Quiet means fast. Means you're just too slow. Fast, quiet. And this nun said, I'm already fast. How come you hit me? This guy hit harder, fast. And then he complained, how come he's hitting me? He's hitting you for disobedience. He's hitting you because you're still egoistic. You don't want to follow the rules. You just want to be yourself. You want to argue. You are egoistic in what you think. You always put a comment on, I'm already fast enough. How come you hit me on the shoulder? And sometimes when this guy hit you on the shoulder, it does not mean that he say that you are slow. He just want to test you out to see if you are egoistic, and that why do you hit me? You're not open for training. You still want to be restricted to your own individual, that I'm doing my thing and you're doing your thing, how come you hit me? So that's the reason why. There's a lot of reasons why they use the wooden plank to correct the position. And in many situations, people are meditating like this. And they have to correct your posture. Not very many people, but people who are lack of sleep, they're always dozing into sleep. It's not good. It's not good to doze and sleep. You know why it's not good? When you're sleeping like that, you're affecting other people. When you are sleeping, that means there are people who are lazy and they are sloth. And in Gaomen Monastery, if you're sleeping like that, they may ask you to leave. And also, when you start meditating, they close the door. You can't leave. Then you have to stand aside. You will be punished. People will be punished by standing against the wall. You can't go there. North American people in here, they're so much used to freedom. Don't want to be penalized. You can't go. Because you may be asked to stand right there because you broke the precepts. You broke the rule. You stand right there, everybody was looking at you. You lose your dignity. And you cannot doze into sleepiness when you're meditating. Okay? A boy who is very good and gentle dies from cancer at 14 years old. Why? First of all, I'm not a doctor. How do I know why? And then, who die from cancer at 14 years old. There are people who die 12, 13, 10 years old, 5 years old, 1 month old. So what's the difference between a 14-year-old and a 13 and a half? You can die anytime. You think a 14-year-old is deserved to live to 96, 97? Who knows? A 1-year-old could die. 2-year-old could die. You think you are young and I'm only 21 and I still have at least 60 years to live? No, not necessarily. One accident could change your whole life. Don't wait. You have to get into the spiritual training to get away from suffering. Don't wait till you're old enough. I want to enjoy the pleasure. I don't have to learn the Buddha's teaching. We die anytime. We don't know. We have people in here that they die in different ways. And die from cancer? Sometimes not from cancer, from heart attack, from accidents. People die in various ways, so you have to ask me why. I don't have supernatural power. You mean it's unfair? There's no such thing as unfair. Everybody is your own master. You sow what you reap. So you be careful with yourself. You sow what you reap. He's good and gentle. How come he die 14 years old? There are people who are good and gentle and who die at 7 years old, 8 years old. Don't wait. You have to start your spiritual transformation right away. Change, purify your karma. Okay, that's the answer. During meditation, when negative thoughts come, do we release them or accept them? When negative thoughts come, let it come and let it go. Don't think about it. You are like a mountain, as I always compare the analogy to a mountain. When the clouds of darkness comes, let it flow away. When the cloud of gloominess comes, let it go away. When the cloud of pleasure comes, let it go away. Red clouds, black clouds, yellow clouds, blue clouds. Just look at it. You look at it and it go away. Don't go away with the cloud. Don't attach your feeling to the cloud. I like this cloud. I hate this cloud. I would like to go away with this cloud. I like to go away to, don't be carried away. Just be objectively observing all these emotions that come to you and let it go. Can you do that? Can you be successful in doing it? Extremely difficult, because you always get carried away by your own emotions. That's why we need to train, the training. The meditation, just a Saturday afternoon for half an hour, it's tip of an iceberg. You need more and more at home. You need more training at home. This is just to give you an example. You need to purify your mind. The more purified you are, the happier you are. The wiser you are. The happier you are, the wiser you are, the more successful you will be. It all in the loop, it works in the loop. You want to have a happy life, a healthy life, even an elevated afterlife to a level that is that's higher than reincarnation. You got to start now. There's no free lunch like this one. This is a free lunch to attract you to come here, but there's no such thing. And actually, I tell you, there's nothing free. Don't always receive. Try to receive. When you receive something, somehow you got to give it back or give it out. So always think about giving, not just receiving. Always think about how much you can give to your family, how much you can care about your kids, how much you can care about your wife, your husband, your relatives, your mom, your dad. Don't think about what my dad gave. My dad gave me nothing. My dad, I don't like him. I hate him. Always forgive and think about what you can give. You'll be happier that way. So if your dad treat you badly, forgive it. It's gone. Don't even have that in your mind. You will be happier that way. Because by hating him, it wouldn't have changed the past outcome with it. You hated him. What happened is already happened. Your wife has already mistreated you, have already divorced you. Your husband, whatever bad thing, bad experiences that happened to you, already happened. And now you ponder on it. You get anxiety, depression, hatred, anger. You think that would change the outcome? That already happened? It won't. So why are we so stupid? Getting so grief-stricken and so much suffering for it. Let go. Don't go over the clouds. A thought like that, a thought of hatred comes up, let go. Even a thought of pleasure comes up, let go. A neutral thought come up, let go. You're not being touched by it. You're not being affected by it. Train yourself in that way. Then that means what? You're more observant. You're more mindful. You know what's going on. If you build up that mindfulness, you know what you would do? Then you will come up in a situation that you don't see this as coming and going. You don't see this as coming and going. When you don't see any coming and going, that means there's nothing. There's no coming and no going. When there's no coming and no going, what happened to you? There is still a coming and going. The wisdom will be coming. The wisdom will be coming. When the wisdom is coming, finally, even the wisdom you have to let go. Then what is that? I don't know. That's nirvana. We can't always use words to explain it.